Welcome back to the Colorado Rockies, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen the thumbnail. You know it's coming. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here. We had a really big off season for 2028. This is episode 10 of the Colorado Rockies, and we had so much happen this off season. I think the phrase is that we were cooking. I think we cooked basically this off season. We extended like 4 or 5 different players. We have a lot that we ended up doing, and we could still do more, but we're not going to be doing that, unfortunately. But we have a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. Of course, we have to talk about all the stuff that happened in the off season. So first and foremost, before we even got to the awards, we went ahead and offered extensions to Brenton Doyle and Adael Amador. Those were the two people we thought, okay, they've had good seasons. We need to extend them. We need to lock them down now and at least be able to get them, hopefully, sign them to long-term deals. That way they don't ask for more down the road if they continue to develop and do really well. So Doyle ends up getting a $49 million 6-year extension. That's basically his new contract. He also has a team buyout of $3.2 million in the 6th year if we don't want to take him on for his 35th year. I'm not sure why that was actually in there, but it was. Either way, $9 million for a Gold Glove center fielder who had a 3.2 WAR season with 34 stolen bases, 16 home runs, and 18 doubles is acceptable. I know that's a little bit pricey. We could do better, but at the moment, we do not have a better center fielder prospect in our system to replace him. He will have to do. So we sign him for the 6 years with the team option in the final year. We can always buy him out if we have to at this point, but he is going to be worth it, in my opinion. The speed and the defense alone are enough to make me want to have him here and keep him at this time. And that money is fairly cheap for a Gold Glove center fielder who provides a decent amount of WAR. If he can get a little bit of that bat back around. He didn't quite get anything this offseason, unfortunately, but we're still hopeful that he might be able to at least bat maybe like 260. If he can get back to his 2024 season style, but have the really good Gold Glove defense, he could be a 4 WAR character, and that would be absolutely worth at least $15 million at that point. So I think we cheaped out on Doyle. I think it's a good gamble for us. He's not too expensive. We could also ditch him in a year or two if we find somebody way better, way faster. The other person we got, of course, was Amador. Now, Amador wanted a little bit more. We ended up getting him for about $18 million down the road, but it's a 8-year contract. It's an 8-year, almost $115 million contract. We get him for the remainder of his arbitration years. And then we have $13.5 million and then 18. So 5 years of $18 million for Amador. But if he does this kind of a season over and over and over, a 5 WAR season, I would be very happy to have Amador. We also were able to have a player development over the course of the offseason. He had a fantastic improvement to his plate discipline. I believe it was like 20-point improvement to his plate discipline, and he is now sitting very pretty at 76 over 82. So we really think that the walks are going to go up. They might be closer to 80 by the end of next season, and the void Ks are really good. He puts the ball in play. He's got good speed. We're going to hopefully try to get that speed up as he goes further and further into his career. He's 24 years of age. He's really good. He can play second or third if we don't want to play that position, which you'll find out later why we wanted to make that switch anyways. But his money being kind of narrowed down actually brought him under what his expected contract ask was going to be for arbitration and potentially down the road. So we signed him for less than what he was probably worth. So that's a good thing for us. The fan increase, of course, from that as well. And that got us into the awards. And this was before we made our massive changes, okay? So we got, at this point, 4 Gold Gloves. We got Bowden Francis one more time. He is now on the Oakland A's. We let him go. I believe it was via our arbitration release, basically. Drew Romo got it for catcher. Of course, we got it for Benny Montgomery out in left field. He's no longer with the team. And Brenton Doyle out in center field. He got it as well. So some good Gold Gloves across the diamond, basically. We're going to be looking for more Gold Glovers down the road if we can, just to be able to keep our defense in tip-top shape, basically. We also were able to win, I believe, one Silver Slugger, and that was Ezekiel Tovar. So our 6.3 WAR shortstop did in fact win that position, which was fantastic. Very happy about that. We're going to be looking for more Silver Sluggers down the road as well. And of course, a unanimous Rookie of the Year award going to Charlie Condon. Fantastic season for him. 41 homers, 301 batting average. He is coming into the new season with not a whole lot of more developments, unfortunately, but if he can just basically rinse and repeat what he did last year, I'd be very, very happy. All right, that brought us up into the international free agency. Now, there was really, I think, only one person who was that good, and it was Shingo Saiki. And this was a bullpen arm. He ended up going to the Philadelphia Phillies. You know, we offered him a contract. We did, of course. But he wanted at the end $19 or $20 million, and we were offering him like, I think, 11 at the beginning. So we did not get a chance to even have a shot for Saiki, unfortunately. He ended up going to the Philadelphia Phillies, and that was perfectly fine. Now, we had mentioned that we were looking at a couple different people on the international amateur free agency period, the people that you scout and then try to sign. I know we had talked about Lorenzo Martinez being one of them. We did not get Lorenzo Martinez, unfortunately. He ended up going to the Phillies for approximately $4.75 million. That was way too much for us. Now, we ended up being able to do a really good job on that. While we were doing all of that scouting and everything else, we offered both Saiki and Will Vest contracts, and we were able to land Will Vest for about $15 million. It's a bit more than we wanted, but he's also one of the more experienced and reliable relievers right now in the system. So he is going to be our closer moving into the new season, as we, of course, lost Brooks Raley and Felix Bautista to free agency, and we just were not going to sign either of them. The lottery results, this is going to be a fun one for all of you out there. The Chicago Cubs moved up from 16th place, which I believe is the last spot you can be in the draft order. Nobody else is going to be able to get moved. So the last person in the lottery, the Chicago Cubs, got first. Do not ask me why. They get first. The Oakland Athletics get second. The Los Angeles Angels fall down to third, and the Miami Marlins fall down to fourth. Of course, we're not in the lottery, so we are still 27th at this point. But just thought you guys would like to know, all the Chicago Cubs fans out there, you got lucky here. Your team ended up having a record of, what was the record last year? It was over 500, if my memory is correct. They were 83-79. That's a 512 winning percentage, and they get the number 1 overall draft pick. So go figure. Of course, we were able to reach out for Will Vest, get Will Vest's contract all signed up. He's got 4 years. 4 years for us at $15 million, so 32 through 35 years of age. We have our closer of the next 4 seasons, and that is when we made the bombshell trades. So the reason why we made this first trade was that we noticed that Riley Greene was on the trade block. And I was like, well, we don't really have many good outfield prospects right now. Benny Montgomery's a great defender, but not a good hitter. And Yanquiel Fernandez, we had just gotten an updated scouting report about Yanquiel Fernandez. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Yanquiel Fernandez now. His hitting is all but dried up. His defense is getting better. We've actually been able to make him better in the outfield, but his bat is going to struggle hard this year. It's just not good at all. So we kind of came to the conclusion that we needed to acquire a really good outfield player, and Riley Greene being on the trading block, he hit 35 homers this past season, batted .306. It was his best season by far, 4.6 WAR. We thought, hey, he can come and play in Colorado. He can play left field. He could play right field. I don't have a problem with left field if he wants to stick out there. We do have Nelson Rada. He can go play right field. If we put Riley Greene in left field, that would be fantastic. Now, he is in his final season of his contract. It's a $21.2 million contract with the Tigers. And we ended up having to give away quite a haul for him. Not a major haul, but a decent haul for a 1-year rental of Riley Greene. And I'll explain why we did this, because there's another part to Riley Greene we talk about later. So we had to give up Ben Jacobs. This is the biggest letdown. Ben Jacobs, I think, is on the verge of becoming probably a decent number 2 starting pitcher down the road. I think his pitches are that good. I think his improvement can get better, and if the stamina goes up a little bit more, He's got a great, humble, high work ethic, high intelligence, low financial ambition. This is the one person I'm going to be very upset that we had to get rid of, but this was the only reason they would ever give up Riley Greene to us. So this left-handed pitcher, unfortunately, who was the number 60th overall prospect. I don't know if that's how it was when we traded him. I think he was technically 92nd overall in the prospects list. He's now 60th. He was a big part of why this trade ended up going down. We also had to give up Robert Robertus. This is just a minor league outfielder, not important in this deal. We did have to give them River Camacho, another of our international. No, he was actually a trade. He was involved. No, international discovery, I believe. Nah, instantly signed by our team immediately. So, already on the team when we made the save, but this is somebody who was technically, quote unquote, an international discovery. He's not terrible as a prospect. He was the 79th and then 75th overall prospect in baseball. He's now not actually ranked in the prospect system, so he might be less valuable, but he's still a really decent high control starting pitcher, and it's going to be hard to stomach losing both him and Jacobs, in all honesty, but I still think Riley Greene is going to be so much better. We had to give up Jared Thomas with this deal as well. Unfortunately, the guy who hit 27 homers in AAA last year had 13 in AA, so he had 40 homers in the full 2027 season. He did have a good year in AA, but looking at his information and his ratings, unless he develops a whole lot in like the next 2 years, I think he's a quad A outfielder. I think he's really good, but I just don't see him being good enough to develop into that star player that you are always going to rely upon and enjoy. Sean Sullivan was another person we had to give up in the deal as well. He was one of our AAA starting pitchers. He actually made 2 starts for us last year in the big leagues, but unfortunately, I just don't see the control getting much better, and he's a borderline starter by OOTP standards, so he's just not good enough, unfortunately, to really be a starter. I think he'll be a bullpen arm for Detroit moving forwards, and I don't really see him doing too much in that position. We did give them Benny Montgomery as a replacement for Riley Greene. Hopefully, he doesn't come back to burn us for that decision, but if he can bat 260 the rest of his career, I think that would be a success for him. I just think Riley Greene is so much better than what Benny Montgomery could give us at this point, and I'm just happy to be able to have him. So I was not in any concern giving up Benny Montgomery. The Tigers did also get Heston Kjerstad. They ended up actually losing him in the Rule 5 draft to the Angels, like literally the next day. So he'll be playing for the Angels this season. We'll see if he'll keep on that team. They are scheduled to keep him, so hopefully that's the case. We also gave them Wahia Aloy, who is a infielder for us, but he wasn't that big of a prospect, so we kind of had to give him a couple of like mediocre to low-end prospects to make the trade work. But we also gave him some like quad A outfield. We gave him Pereira, and we gave them Kjerstad. So we gave them a mixture of like really bad players and a couple of like diamonds in the rough. So we'll see if Jacobs and Thomas and Camacho develop into anything for the Tigers. We gave them 3 prospects basically for Riley Greene, but I am over the moon with Riley Greene. And here is why I'm over the moon about it, because we were able to then turn around and extend him for 9 years. We have a 9-year extension for Riley Greene, so we'll have him until he's 36 years old. We have him starting at about $30 million, going up to 36, and then he has a player opt-out. If he wants to stay on the team, he can. Otherwise, he can leave. So we have time to be able to develop some more prospects, pay Riley Greene quite a lot for the next 3 years after this current year. So we have 4 years of Riley Greene, and then if he wants to stay, he can have another 6 years, but it'll go all the way down to $20 million by the time he's 36 years of age. So that's $250 million for 9 years. So that's, in my opinion, that is exactly what he's worth, if not a little bit of an underpay. If he can come to Colorado and make a 5 WAR season every single year, which is the goal, that is the goal. The goal is to have him bat like 320 with close to the same number of homers, maybe some more doubles, maybe get the stealing up a little bit more, and I think he'll play great left field defense for us. He's not going to be a Benny Montgomery with the stealing and the defense, but he's definitely going to have much better hitting. If he can do that, he's definitely worth it. He's absolutely worth it. And right after we made that trade, we were like, okay, so if we're gonna make this deal and go all out and like really try to win now, because we have Bieber, we have Gray, they're here for the season. We're developing more people. We've got our quad A players all up into the system, basically. We actually need to push now. Like, this is when we actually need to push. So we did. I don't know how on earth we were able to make this deal, but we did. And we'll explain why this is such a great deal for us at this point. We offered up to the Kansas City Royals, we offered them Warming Bernabel, who is a quad A defensive DH kind of player. He might be able to play first base for them, but he's definitely not a third baseman. He had a good season with us in the big leagues, so he could turn into something interesting, but he's also 25 years of age, and he's going to be getting into arbitration here, and he's fragile. So we were like, okay, he's not necessary. We had to give them Sterling Thompson. This is going to be the big one, but we wanted to move somebody else to DH. And that was where we were like, okay, Sterling Thompson's not necessary. And we originally had plans for somebody else to play DH that was supposed to be Yanquiel Fernandez, but he then developed really poorly in spring training and got even worse. And so we are actually going to have Jorge Ruiz or potentially Nathan Lukes play DH instead for us at the beginning of the season. We even went out and got Dylan Carlson as a backup outfielder / backup DH position at this point. So we were okay with getting rid of Sterling Thompson, even though he is one of the people that I think could develop into something very, very good. If he gets that last little bit of development, he could turn into a very decent, probably 4-star first baseman. He is 26. He's starting into arbitration, but he's really good. He's got a really good gap power, contact-focused bat. You really like to see that kind of style. He's just not a power hitter, and I really wanted something better than that. So we had to give him Sterling Thompson. We had to give them Mason Albright. This was another person who somehow they desired to have him, so I guess they see something in him that we don't. But I didn't understand that pickup. We did have to give them Gabriel Hughes, but he had been a bullpen arm for us for the entire season. He did really well, but I don't think he's going to be a starter, and at the end of the day, it just felt really bad to say that he can't be a starter on our team because we're just never going to be able to give him a chance for that. He's going to be a bullpen arm for the rest of his life. So we sent him in this deal because it was a good option for us to get rid of him. Wilmus Paulino is going to be the big loss here in this trade. He is the number 98 prospect in baseball. He was 72nd when we offered him over to the Kansas City Royals. This is a person who's 22 years of age, almost fully developed, similar to Ben Jacobs, where he was supposed to be fighting for a rotation spot this season, but because of us having both Bieber and Gray and all the people that we had originally, we didn't actually feel like we needed to keep Paulino. So he's included in this deal. He already has a sprained elbow. He's already fragile. He played, half his season last year in AA and AAA, so he's not even technically ready for the big leagues. I think you could try him out in the big leagues, but the stamina is also not quite there. So Paulino was kind of like, if he develops any more, he might be a problem, but for now, he's okay to get rid of. Derek Bernard was another person we had to get rid of in this deal for Bobby Witt Jr., which is, I guess I haven't mentioned his name yet, but we did get Bobby Witt Jr. in this trade. Bernard did really well in AA, but he had some struggles in AAA. He's just, I don't know. If he develops well, he could turn into something decent as a starter, but otherwise he is a quad A player again as well. They also wanted Brainer Bonassi. We were able to give him Bonassi at this point. He had been trying out in AAA last year, did not do very well, doesn't quite have the defense to carry his lack of a bat, so unfortunately he was involved in this deal. We also gave them Eduardo Beltre. This is someone that might come back to hurt me a little bit. He had been doing decently in single A plus last year, got raised up to AA after a really good season last season in single A when we acquired him, I believe, in a trade. Yes, from the Orioles. That was the Alex Vesia and Luis Mendez deal. He's not bad. He could develop into something. He's got some decent defense. He's got some decent bat approaches and some decent speed, but he just has to have all of the luck would have to be on his side for the rest of his career. He's 21 years of age. He'll be in AAA for the Royals, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if he'll be great, but he could be something interesting for them. We also had to give up Brian Ritter. And this was because we were acquiring Bobby Witt Jr., and we don't need a second baseman if Bobby Witt Jr. is going to go play second. Now, we opted to have Bobby Witt Jr. go and play third. We're going to be moving Amador back to second, where he is a little bit more natively positioned to play, and Ryan Ritter has to go because we aren't going to have room for him. So this might be another person that we regret getting rid of, but the Royals are expecting to have Ritter play shortstop for them in the upcoming season, and I do expect him to hit probably 30 home runs in a full season with the Royals and probably have like a 3 or 4 WAR season, and it's going to be tough to see him go, but it's worth it for Bobby Witt Jr. Last but not least, we had to give up Esteban Machado. This was another like really young, not a really young, 25-year-old prospect down in AAA, AA last year. He had done okay. His defense is not good enough for third base. I think he's for shortstop. I think he's a third baseman by trait. So didn't have a whole lot of trouble giving up him or Benassi or Albright, Bernard, Beltre, Ritter, Paulino, Thompson, Bernabel, and Hughes could come back to bite us, but for a lot of those characters, besides maybe Ritter and Thompson, their WAR potential is very much going to be dependent upon how they develop and how good they do. Now, let me explain why this is such a good deal for us. First of all, we get Bobby Witt Jr. This is potentially one of the best shortstop/third basemen in the game. This is basically Ezequiel Tovar 2.0. A little bit older, way more expensive, but he is basically the same thing. So we are going to play him at third base. He is better at third base than shortstop. So he's going to be natively better at the third base position. His WAR might go down because he's not at a prime position, but we are expecting him to still be able to do potentially 40, 30 seasons, 40 doubles, 30 home runs. He can probably still do 10 triples. His speed is amazing. We're going to let him just absolutely fly around the base paths. And the real kicker is the Royals are keeping 50% of his contract. So Bobby Witt Jr. is on average $16 to $17.5 million a season. So we get him for 4 years. He can opt out if he wants to at the age of 30. And if he doesn't, the Royals will still continue to pay 50% of the next 6 seasons that we have Bobby Witt Jr. on the team. So we're still setting ourselves up for the idea that if these two players, Greene and Witt, if they both opt out, we will have prospects by that time. That's 2031. That's 3 years from now. So if we go to our salaries, because this is where everything started to kind of come together. So we acquired Bobby Witt Jr. We acquired Riley Greene. We extended Riley Greene for the 9 years, average of $27.7 million. We then went out and extended Drew Romo. So we extended Romo for $11.6 million at his best. It's about a 9-year, $95 million contract. So this is fantastic for a 3.5, 4-star catcher. This is amazing. There's also a buyout for that last season. If we don't want him at that point, we can get him out for a little bit earlier. So Romo is now kind of guaranteed to play here for life, basically. And then right after that, we extended Charlie Condon. We gave him an extension of $186 million for 10 years. That means that it's at its peak, it's $26 million. 23 is the middle, and then a little bit less each year. So we basically cleared out his arbitration. So if he suddenly takes off, we will not be paying him more than the $186 million, plus, of course, the additional clauses and incentives on top of that, of course, as well. But this means that we basically have most of our main squad signed through the next. If Greene and Witt do not opt out, we will have everybody signed through basically 2033-ish, which is phenomenal. We'll have Greene, Condon, Amador, Witt Jr., Romo, Doyle's on that list as well. Shane Bieber, if he does not opt out, he'll be here through 2031, and Tovar's here through 2031 as well as Will Vest. So basically, most of our squad can be retained through 2031, except for Sonny Gray, who's going to be 39 years of age next year. So I don't see that being a big thing for us to try to acquire another season of a very aging Sonny Gray. But I'm very, very excited about the idea that our squad, a bunch of 26 and 27-year-olds, are all signed long term. Now, there's good and there's bad things about that. The good is that it means that if our team really starts to pick it up and everybody's developing well, we keep them for really low salaries. If they start to fall apart, however, if they stop developing and they start to have problems, we are going to need to quickly trade away their entire contract to somebody else. Now, thankfully, the only people that I could really see doing that would be Bobby Witt Jr., Riley Greene potentially could start to tank off. I think Bieber is more likely to do that because of his injury problems, but he might even opt out after the season, so I can't even guarantee we'll ever experience that. I don't think Amador or Tovar are going to have any problems. They are actually both so young, they may even develop even more as they get older. But it's really going to be Bobby Witt Jr., Riley Greene, Will Vest might fall apart in the next season or two if he really tanks, unfortunately. The bigger ones are going to be more like Brenton Doyle and Drew Romo. They're both kind of hindering on 3.5 stars. Doyle is, of course, 2.5 stars. There's a better chance that both of them have really bad developments on their bats and they just can't hit anymore, and we'd have to be able to dump them for something. But they're both so low contracts that I don't think it would be too hard for me to be able to do that. There's also a chance that we may not even be able to keep Yanquiel Fernandez, so his $7.5 million arbitration estimate that's scheduled to go down the road, that may not even happen. Dollander will probably start looking to see if he can sign a long-term deal if we feel like he's going to be a presence in our rotation moving forwards. But again, we've got all these really young kids. Kunkel's going to be in AAA this year. Cancel's going to be in Single A. Becerra, who we got in the international amateur free agency, which we'll talk about here in a second, he got acquired. He's in the rookie ball system. Richard Dominguez is going to be an A-plus ball, and Juan Fien is going to be in AAA as alongside Larry Kunkel. So the pitching is being developed. The hitting is now getting a little bit filled in. We picked up some really good prospects. Let's go ahead and talk about that for a quick second, because I think we're up to this point. We got up to the point of the international scouting practices being completed. We went ahead and made offers for Jose Gonzalez, who is a 4.5-star outfielder, and we got him for about $2 million, which is way less than I expected he'd go for. We picked up Leo Becerra, and we ended up only offering him $2.7 million, and he turned out to be a 4-star starting pitcher. We still need to do another update on him, so he might even be higher because his scouting continues to just go up and up and up at this point, so he might be better. We also were able to pick up Telmo Lehaze for only $600,000, and he's a great 4-star outfielder. So we're interested in seeing if Telmo can continue to develop in the international system at this point. And then last but not least, we were able to pick up Juan Jimenez, a 2.5-star outfielder who might actually switch to being a first baseman down the road. We'll see about that. But really good quality prospects joining our international system down in the international complex for the 2028 season. The last thing that happened before opening day was that we got a couple people from the development system, from the international discovery system. Humberto Castillo, a semi-decent catcher who we might see if he can develop a little bit more of that. We did pick up a Jonathan Camacho, who is actually a fairly decent outfielder, very similar to the Juan Jimenez signing that we just got. And then we got I believe a second catcher. Might have been somebody else. No, we updated our profile of Castillo and got a little bit more about that. But we have been getting some scouting discoveries. Our prospect system is getting replenished. And unfortunately, after our owner gave us the information that we should be reaching playoffs, which I totally agree with, we were told that even though we have the number one prospect in baseball, which is Larry Kunkel, we are no longer the number one farm system in the big leagues. Inserts unhappy face right here. The Miami Marlins have taken over the number one spot in the league. That's because, of course, they've got Laclan Clement and, of course, Miguel Lara. Both of these two people could make a team so much better as they get into the system. They also have Cardoza, my apologies, 15th overall prospect in baseball. Grimwood's the 22nd overall prospect in baseball. The Miami Marlins have been drafting and acquiring people very, very well at this point. So the Miami Marlins are now officially the number 1 overall team in baseball for prospects. Our prospect system is a little bit lower in terms of some of the amounts of players we've got in the system, but we still have some really high-quality pitchers on this list. Kunkel, Fiend, Cancel, Dominguez. Of course, we still have the other people involved. Becerra is going to be probably listed on that top 100 prospects list or top 200 prospects list down the road. We also are interested in seeing where is the one guy? Yeah, technically, Ivan Lara has really dropped, unfortunately, but we're still expecting some decent stuff out of him. And then the screenshot or the thumbnail in the last video, or a couple of videos ago, had CJ Sampson on the list as well. I think CJ Sampson is going to be a potential developable player for us. He's actually a two-way player. He's got some decent hitting and some decent pitching ability. So we're interested in seeing if CJ Sampson can turn into our minor version of a Shohei Ohtani, if he can get to develop the control a little bit and continue working on the bat. He could be a really good third baseman or corner outfielder down the road. So we're interested in CJ Sampson being able to join our team, hopefully as a two-way player down the road, but we are expecting him to try out as a starting pitcher at the latest. So we're still expecting that to be something that we're working towards. We were able to increase our budgets back up to their usual amounts, so we are still being able to really have the maximum amount of almost development and scouting, and their draft, we have $15 million for that at this point. We had some pretty decent development lab, no major upsets in the development lab this season, so we're very excited. Jose Gonzalez moves into the top 200s on the player prospects list, so that was one of our international free agency signings from the past 2 months, basically. Yearwood finally joins the top 200 on the prospects list. I'm very excited to see if he develops as a catcher for us. And then, of course, I think this is the last one that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, Chris Hunt is still semi-developing at this point. I'm still going to see if we can get a lot of his bat upgraded. I still don't know how on earth OSA thinks he's that good, but we're going to see him play for the first time in the ACL. That's the rookie system for the Arizona Complex League, basically. That'll be happening this season as well. We'll see Chris Hunt for the first time in the big leagues. Otherwise, for the major leagues, so this is going to be a long video. My apologies. We unfortunately did get hit by the injury bug. It's only going to be 4 more weeks, hopefully, but Sonny Gray did get injured during spring training. He was doing pretty good, but he's out for 4 weeks of a strained hamstring. We'll hopefully have him back here pretty soon. He's fragile now. Bieber is unfortunately wrecked, so we're going to have to be very, very, very careful about Shane Bieber. Just hoping and praying that he continues to develop, but he's back up to 4.5 stars now, so I just want him to stay healthy. Just stay healthy, Bieber. If we can get them through the entire season, I'd be very happy. Bieber, Hampton, Dollander, Giolito, and Carlos Rodriguez are going to be our starting pitchers for the season as we move forward. Once Sonny Gray comes back, I'm assuming Carlos Rodriguez will move back to the bullpen. Depending upon who is doing well in the bullpen, we'll probably bump them down to AAA. We did acquire, I believe, a couple of Rule 5 draft pickups. Yes, Tyler Zuber is going to be in our bullpen this year. He's got an interesting little situation out of Cincinnati, but he's also decent enough that we wanted to keep him here. Hansel Rincon got signed back in 2025. He's made his way into the big leagues at this point. He was a starter down in AAA. He is now going to be in the big leagues as a bullpen arm, long relief style, basically. And then Ruver Flores was actually involved in one of our Toronto Blue Jay trades. We ended up landing Chase Alderman in that one, as well as Bowden Francis. We ended up giving up the Vaughn Grissom trade, basically, for that one right about there. He joins the bullpen, and then Alameo Hernandez gets his second season with the big league squad. Hopefully, it's a little bit better than his last one. But Will Vest, Edgardo Hernandez, and Jackson Cox are actually going to be our main bullpen arms for right now. We are looking to acquire a bullpen arm or two if we're able to continue to have a good season, and if we have some trade ability, we will be looking to do that down the road. Otherwise, for our offense, we are looking to have Riley Greene in left field, Brenton Doyle out in center. Nelson Rada joins the team in right field. I'm very excited to see just what Nelson Rada can do. I think he can be a sub Gold Glove, but still really good right fielder with some great speed and really good ability to get on base and have some good contact. So Nelson Rada, hopefully we're looking for a 30-plus stolen base season from him. If he can bat like 270 and have 30-plus stolen bases and have, probably a above average fielding ability, I think he can hit a 3-WAR season for a rookie. And we might have, if he does really good, we might have back-to-back Rookie of the Year awards, Condon and then Rada. We have a good chance for that. Bobby Witt Jr. goes to play third base for the regular season. Tovar stays at shortstop with Amador moving back to second base. That gives us really good defense across the infield. Of course, Charlie Condon goes to play first base as is his usual. Ruiz, Lukes, and Carlson are going to be our DHs interswapping between time spent, basically. We're going to see how each one does. Ruiz is here on a Rule 5 draft pickup right now, so if Jorge Ruiz doesn't quite pan out, we might be dropping him down and then sending someone up from AAA. Maybe Fernandez, if he has a good time in AAA. Maybe we'll bring him back and just see if he does well. Otherwise, Drew Romo is going to be our catcher with Nick Fortes as our backup to him this season. Nick Fortes comes to us from the Miami Marlins, who had him all of 2026. We had him last year in AAA. We did not want to bring up Juan Flores, who will be the starting catcher in AAA. He is one of our prospects, actually, and hopefully he gets a full season in AAA, does well, and we can call him up pretty soon. But Drew Romo is going to be our starter with, of course, again, Fortes being our backup. We also do have Jacob Amaya. He was a Rule 5 pickup from St. Louis. He will be our backup infielder, second and shortstop, as well as kind of a backup speed option for us off the bench if we wanted to be able to do that. He's also a really good leader and prankster in the team, so he actually gives us some really good team chemistry at this point. We're already happy on that one right there. Everything else is going pretty well. Our team we still have all of our personnel. All our staff is still here. Nobody's left. We're actually improving our reputations. Our manager is now good. Our scouting director is good. We're getting into the average ranges for all of our minor league staff. Pretty soon, they're going to start demanding promotions and potentially leaving us for other organizations. So we're going to start having some problems pretty soon here, but that's expected. That's what happens in OOTP. Content is our staff right now. Again, salaries, the big year I'm looking for, 2031. This is the year that we're expected to have a $207 million payroll. Now, we're expected to jump up to $214 million on our budget next year. I don't know if that's going to increase if we can reach playoffs, and if we win the World Series, that might go up dramatically. But I'm really hoping that by 2031, we're at least at $230 million on our payroll. That would be just enough for us to squeeze by on this. Otherwise, I'm probably going to have to see about not having Shane Bieber get his vesting option. I'm going to have to see if Greene or Witt opt out. Tovar might have to have his contract questioned. Chase Hampton probably will not be earning $11.5 million by 2031. And there's also a chance that Yanquiel Fernandez won't even be on the organization anymore. So we might save about $30 million. So it's probably still doable for us. If we make some decisions and some changes, we'll probably be just fine. But as it stands right now, there's going to be a little bit of a money crunch starting in about two seasons or so. We're going to have to be a little bit more careful about where we spend our money, since we've done so much of because so much of our money has been actually put towards these long-term deals. We just have to be careful. But otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, that is your Colorado Rockies for 2028. Our preseason predictions has us finishing first place in the National League West, and this is before we get Sonny Gray back. Bieber is supposed to be the fourth best pitcher in the league. Of course, our arch nemesis, Nam, is going to be second. He had a less than stellar 2027. His sophomore slump came through a little bit. Of course, Vlad Guerrero Jr., who got signed by the Dodgers in 2027 and ended up winning the MVP and the Silver Slugger for first base. He is going to be probably the best hitter in the National League. I'm still a little bit upset about this one right here. $38.5 million until 2034. Wow, that's a lot of money for the Dodgers. But regardless, we are expected to be ahead of the Dodgers and the Padres by 2 and 4 games, respectively. They're both going to be really tough teams to go against, but we are expected to have really good results from Bobby Witt Jr., Riley Greene, Charlie Condon's expected to have 56 homers in the regular season. That's phenomenal. It's just the lights are all turning green. And I don't want to, jinx that and be like, oh, this is our season. But we have not just this year, but we have multiple seasons that we should be very competitive now. We have turned this team around in 3 years basically, and we are looking at a team that can fight against the best of the best. We have good starting pitching, we've got really good hitting, we've got one good bullpen arm, and we could really use a couple more, but we're seeing if some of our younger people can step up. I know Leclerc did so good last season. Enrique has been doing pretty good in his time with us as well. They've got to step it up this year and both be able to prove they're both set-up pitchers, and they're really good for that. Our bullpen has always been our strongest part, actually. So I'm hoping that continues. Our offense should be good. Our run game should be good. Our defense should be still fairly phenomenal for us this season. I don't think we're going to be quite as good as we were last year. We've lost a couple of Gold Glovers, but I think we'll be pretty good. I'm excited. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm excited to see how this goes. I'm also excited to see how our decision-making screen here changes as we go forwards with these trades, because we've given up a lot of people. We've given up Ryan Feltner, Ryan McMahon, Chris Bryant, of course, Justin Lower, Nolan Jones, Rafaela. Cutter Crawford's even back on our own squad because we gave him up for a couple seasons to Toronto. We gave up Kung Woo Kim, we gave up Drew Gilbert, we gave up Vaughn Grissom, we gave up Brian Bello. He's now in AAA for Oakland. We gave up Carlos Hernandez, who's, he's injured and he's old. But we've given up quite a lot of good young prospects. Jordy Vargas, another person who's already on the Kansas City Royals and was their closer last year. We've given up some really good people. We've also acquired some really good people. Ian Anderson was a great signing for the 2 years that he was here with us. 2.8 WARs per season. Shane Bieber's already made his mark, 3.4 WAR. Brooks Raley came in and gave us 2 great seasons as a bullpen pitcher. Kung Woo Kim, even when he was with us, was pretty good. The Bello acquisition, the trade for him was really good. The Chase Hampton trade was good for him. He's still on the team. I'm still looking to see if he can have a great full season with the Major League squad at this point. We've been so blessed by all of our signings at this point. And even signing Jordan Montgomery, and he's back in AAA for us at this point. He actually pitched not at all last year. So having him back in AAA, it's just a backup depth arm at this point. I mean, he had a great season for us in 2026. So I'm just so happy that stuff is at least working out somewhat decently. I know we haven't had the best development on our hitting, and that's been actually a bit of a downer, is that we don't really have those really good bats that I'm used to seeing out of the Rockies organization, but we're making do. And we've got really good development down the road. I still think that we're actually in a really good position with some of our developments and some of our really young batters at this point. We've got some time. We have these long-term contracts. We should be in a really good place. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for episode 10. I will see you all in episode 11.